Hello, my friends, and welcome to a space where pleasure is treasured, relaxation is not what you think it is, and life firing on all cylinders is what we're about. If you are somebody who wakes up every day asking for way more, consider this your happy place. Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I'm your host, Heather Nichols. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. We're going to play this week with something I love to play with and explore, and that is our tissue, the tissue of our bodies, and tending the tissue, taking care of your tissue. I have learned a lot about this over the past couple years, especially. And I love playing with my own, like working with my own tissue and getting stronger and creating more of like a sense of like healthy, lubricated tissue in my body. And I've seen some amazing things that have been created from it. Not just like, so what am I talking about when I'm talking about tissue? It's like, there's a lot of different things that could fall under that category, right? Of course, we have like our skin, we have connective tissue, we have muscles, we have the fascia. And for me, the fascia is one of the most amazing things that we have in our bodies, and it has a huge impact on everything. So what I want to talk specifically about today is more about the fascia and taking care of your fascia, and then also some stuff about muscle too that's been really cool for me to learn about, to explore, and start to build muscle in my own body and how that's changing things for me. So let's dive in. So the fascia is this. Many of you maybe have heard me talk about this before, but if not, it's this very thin membrane of very strong tissue, very thin, very strong. And it wraps everything in our bodies. It wraps all of our muscles. It wraps and becomes our connective tissue. It wraps our nerves, our nerve endings. It wraps all of our organs and our bones. And literally, there is no beginning and no end to the fascia. So if you think about like this thin, strong membrane that coats and wraps everything and just keeps going and going and going and going in the body, you can imagine that it really has a very strong impact on how connected everything is in our bodies. One of the things with Western medicine is that people see our bodies as kind of like segmented, parts. Like, we're going to look at your liver and isolate your liver, or we're going to isolate your knee or your shoulder or your ear or whatever. But that's not actually really accurate. Our bodies, our entire bodies they of course function as an organism, and an organism of consciousness. And the fascia carries a lot of energy and awareness, and I would say like our consciousness is alive in our tissue, very much so, and the consciousness of our bodies, and so everything's connected, and the fascia holds a lot of memory. It holds a lot of neurological patterns. So if you have PTSD, or if you are somebody who has kind of tends to a more kind of wound up nervous system, which is the case for a lot of people, your fascia actually has a huge impact on how you organize yourself neurologically and in the world. Because if you're looking at your nervous system and literally the nerves and the nerve impulses, the fascia that coats and wraps everything has a very big impact on how nerve impulses travel, the interpretation of pain, and just how we are. I mean, this is there. I'm going all over the map because fascia really it affects all of our systems, and here's the thing: the fascia can be anywhere from very lubricated. It can be actually almost gel-like in its nature. And when it is gel-like in nature, it's still really, 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 really strong. Like there's some crazy, measurement of how strong it is. I don't remember what it is, but it's like one little square inch of fascia could hold like 2,000 pounds or something. It's crazy. So very strong and still can be very kind of viscous, gel-like, very lubricated, adaptable, malleable. That's how we want our fascia to be, quite honestly, because you can imagine if fascia is wrapping, let's say it's wrapping, any muscle in your body, if it's, more fluid, gel-like, the muscle has room to breathe and move, or any organ in your body has room to breathe and move. Whereas if it's hard, if it's solid, if it's, almost like steel or like knotted and bound up, and it's surrounding a muscle or it's surrounding an organ, what's underneath it, the muscle isn't going to be able to engage much. An organ isn't going to be able to pulse and move as organs do. So the quality of our fascia has such a far-reaching impact on the health of all of our systems, the performance and the function of our organs, our nervous system, our musculature, and our skeleton, and everything. It can also it's crazy because it can create like cellulite and wrinkles. Like those are all fascia, like how our bodies are structured. It's all boils down to the fascia. So how do we take care of this incredible tissue in our bodies? Well, there's a lot of ways that we can take care of it. Fascia has, one of the things about it is that it's very, it requires certain conditions to really be able to change and become greater. So if you have very hard, very bound fascia, it's going to hold your muscles in a certain contracted place, and it's also going to determine where your bones rest. And in Bowspring movement, which is a beautiful movement modality that I teach, we work a lot with the fascia and we work a lot with the bones. And Desiree Springer, one of my teachers, she says the bones are like driftwood. They will go anywhere. The fascia determines and the muscle determines where the bones rest in the body. So for a lot of people, our bones, our skeleton is literally kind of stuck in an out of alignment situation, and where your bones lie in your body also determines what happens with the tissue around them, like the muscle, the connective tissue, the fascia, and vice versa. So we get into these limited patterns with our structure and our skeleton, and then it just gets like held in place, and we kind of like carve these deep grooves into things, and it's hard to change, and again, the way that Western medicine will change something that is like a structure, like if your bones are out of alignment, they're going to go in and they're going to cut the fascia, they're going to cut connective tissue. I had that done with my knees when I was younger. I had my tendons cut in my knees. And if I had known what I know now, that would have been completely unnecessary because I could have changed the fascia and therefore changed how my kneecap was functioning, the harmony in the joint. So when your fascia is hard, solid, bound, kind of disorganized, there's not a lot of elasticity. There's not a lot of plasticity. Like it doesn't change very easily. It doesn't move very easily, and it can literally kind of strangle things that are underneath it. I had that with I'm still healing this thing that was going on with my leg where it was like almost like one of my muscles in my leg couldn't even engage very much because the fascia was so tight around it. So you can imagine, again, like there's a muscle that wants to do this, but if the fascia is like gripping it and strangling it, it can't. And so I've done a lot to change my fascia. So there's certain conditions that are required for fascia to change. And I love to play in lots of ways. with this. Um, to me, it's like there's so much bang for your buck in terms of what you can create with your body when you really get present with your fascia. You get to know it. You get to know the how your all of your tissue moves and invite it to move in a different way. And so fascia changes really easily when you're engaging. So when you are engaging your muscles and the fascia around it through movement, that's a beautiful way to engage to change your fascia. And with a Bowspring movement, one of the things we do is we actually are very careful with how we establish the skeletal alignment before we start to engage the muscles, because once you establish your skeleton in kind of proper alignment, which most people don't really have that, then you start to move and expand and engage the tissue can actually reorganize. It can become more lubricated, it can become more supple, it can become more viscous, less hard, less bound, and everything around it starts to change as a result of that. So movement and engagement of the fascia with movement is a powerful way to change the fascia. And you can do that with Bowspring movement. That's one of the most powerful ways to change your own fascia and learn about your body, the alignment and the flow and all that kind of stuff. And then also energy work. So some of the energy work that I do is it works from Access Consciousness, and it's where you're literally being with the tissue, and the tissue will actually respond to energy work, and it can start to melt and reorganize. Like you can literally change the molecular structure of your tissue from energy work. It's pretty amazing. And so there's various types of energy work that we do in Access Consciousness. There's body processes. There's ESSI, which is called stands for Energetic Synthesis of Structural Embodiment. ESSI is beautiful in how it affects the tissue of the body, and so much more than that as well. But there's ways that we can directly engage with the molecular structure of our tissue to change it through energetic work, hands-on energetic work. And also actually just changing ourselves at the level of our being. I mean, what it is that we be, the energies that we be, create the space in which the molecules of our bodies live and in which they function and behave. And the space around any molecule affects the behavior of that molecule. And different energies create a different result with the molecular structure and the molecular behavior. So if you are pissed off all the time, you're probably going to have fascia that's really hard, that has that kind of like angry, pissed off, rigid energy, because the molecule is kind of like swimming in the soup of that energetically. If you're happy, you're joyful, you have a lot of lightness, you have a lot of access to your being, your body's going to show up in a different way. Your tissue is going to show up in a different way. It's amazing to see how much our bodies can change when we change ourselves energetically. Fascia also really changes dynamically from shearing motion. So anytime you work with the fibers of the fascia and you shear the fibers, like moving across the fibers, there's a really beautiful body of work called kinetics that a lady named Alicia Celeste developed, and she's really a fascia expert. She's amazing. She has a bunch of stuff on YouTube, an old YouTube channel about self fascia release techniques that she uses with foam rollers and things like that. And kinetics is where you actually, there's a practitioner and they actually stand on you and you move your body underneath the force of their body weight. And as you move, there's a shearing that happens with the fascia that changes it and reorganizes it. There's also things like fascia blasting and other ways that you can work that are more intense than energy work, but ways that you can work with your own fascia to create that shearing action that breaks up a lot of the solidity and changes the molecular structure of the fascia. So those are just some ways that the fascia can change. Now, and I did speak to like, why would you want to do that? But let me go a little bit more into that. When, obviously, like any sort of pain that you may have in your body, it very well could be from an imbalance in your structure, in the structure of your skeleton, how your bones are organized, how they sit in relationship to each other, how they move. For example, I mentioned this thing I've been having in my leg. Well, if I use myself as a kind of a guinea pig here, it's like I had a lot of bound fascia in my right foot around my toe, my big toe, and my ankle. And some parts of my foot that were kind of like offline where the muscles couldn't engage. And that changed the alignment of my bones all the way up my leg. Like my lower leg bones started to rotate um, like in the like the opposite of how they need to rotate basically. And what happens is like our bones sit in an incorrect place in our joints. So the bottom of my lower leg bone was sitting kind of like too far forward in my ankle, which meant the top of my lower leg bones were sitting too far back in my knee. You want them to be the opposite. You want the top of your lower leg bones to go forward in your knee and back in your ankle. And you can see when you bend your knee and your ankle, that makes sense, right? You want to have a hollow behind your knees. And then that allows the upper leg bones to go where they need to go. So one little thing off down below in the foot, if the fascia is bound or maybe you have bunions, something like that, that's a lot of that is hardened fascia around a joint that inhibits the movement of the muscle. So your muscle can't move in the way that it needs to. The bones don't get to rest and move where they are most powerful, and the whole system gets thrown off. And there's so many examples like this. I mean, I could talk for days about this, depending on what's going on with your body, because our bodies can develop this sense of what we call tensegrity, where there's this tensile integrity where the strength of our tissue actually creates this way that the body is held in an open posture and open in space with a sense of fullness and strength and openness simultaneously. And that's one of the things we work with a lot in the Bowspring practice is reshaping your body and so that your body begins to rest and hold itself and move itself in a really strong, really integrated, really open way. And when we do that, our fascia is so happy and healthy and lubricated and it moves. And I mean, it's amazing because if you have like the fascia around the organs in your body, like it can affect your digestion, it can affect your liver function, it can affect so many things. Because again, imagine like steel, around your intestines. Well, your intestines need to pulse. They have, peristalsis, like they need to move and pulse like that. So when you have steel around it, it's like it's not going to be able to move and pulse and, but if the fascia around it is very lubricated, then the organs can all function so much differently. So there's also things we can do nutritionally to impact the how the fascia is, the quality of it, how it behaves, really staying well hydrated. I drink hydrogen water. That's been amazing for I've seen a huge difference in my tissue. I have actually a bottle that I love that has like an affiliate thingy, so I can post that below. But it's been amazing for me. Like my hair, like doubled in thickness when I started drinking hydrogen water. My skin changed a lot. My skin is really, really soft. And that was just from proper hydration, because not all water is the same by any means. So you have to be really aware of what the water is that you're drinking. Some people drink structured water. I haven't really dived too much into that, but structured water is supposed to be really, really powerful for the body as well. So, nutrition, like having a lot of protein, having a lot of collagen, and everybody is different. So it's not about following a regimen of any sort. But, they say you are what you eat. And I would say, in a lot of ways, from my experience with my body, I've changed my body so much by changing my diet. I've changed the quality of my tissue so much by changing my diet. I don't really eat sugar. I eat a lot of protein. So this is where I want to go a little bit into the muscle thing. I eat a lot of protein. Like I eat more than I used to eat. And I eat protein, protein, protein. Every time I eat, I make sure there's a lot of protein in what I'm eating. And I'm always checking with my body too. It's been amazing to add protein and eat even at times where I don't necessarily think I'm hungry, but to see what it creates, to give my body a lot of protein every day. And in conjunction with that, to do Bowspring movement, to lift weights. I started lifting weights recently. And this is the piece about muscle that I wanted to mention, because this is another really fascinating thing about the tissue is that I had no idea how important muscle was and is, for not just, the like feeling good, feeling strong, being able to do things for a long time. But muscle is, it's protective in so many ways. And I'm not going to go into a whole thing here, but if you know about metabolic health, if you don't, check it out, like start doing some research if it pings you. I mean, there's so many places you can look to metabolic health is a huge piece these days. What is her name? Casey Means is the Surgeon General of the United States, but she's actually an absolutely brilliant lady. There's a great interview with her on Joe Rogan, and she wrote a book called Good Energy. And I always confuse her and her brother. It's Casey and Callie Means. I think Casey is the one who wrote the book Good Energy. Well, they both wrote it, actually. They wrote it together. It's a fantastic book, and it will give you a lot of information about metabolic health. Metabolic health is really at the root of like so much of our health. And there's a lot of energetic things that I'm not talking about that are huge for me that, for me, it's kind of a given, and that's not what this podcast is about. So it's not that piece of things is really, it's a big piece of my life and how I work with my own body and how I work with bodies. But building muscle is one of the greatest ways to take care of your metabolic health. It all kind of comes back to glucose levels, which has a bearing on hormone health and liver function and the function of your mitochondria, like so many things. And again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not going to get into all of that, but building muscle and having a lot of muscle is one of the biggest factors in robust metabolic health. And if you want to learn more about that, go find some science geeks on YouTube and, what's his name? Huberman. He's great. There's a bunch of people that you can tap into on YouTube, but, because that's not my, I don't speak science. When it starts getting too scientific, I'm like, yeah, I just know it's really good. But the proof for me is in the pudding, because I've seen it in my own body, just focusing on softening and lubricating my fascia, reorganizing my structure, strengthening more, doing strength training. So I'm lifting weights twice a week now. I have a personal trainer. It's been amazing. And what I've seen in my health, my body composition, the like pain levels and just like the organization of my whole body and my whole skeleton. It's been incredible to see. And even if my blood sugar regulation, so many things, adding muscle and developing muscle has been massive for me, and I am just getting started. Actually really enjoy weightlifting. I've been kind of surprised, but I really, really like it. And that in conjunction with Bowspring movement. And to me, it really comes down to, it's all about my tissue and recognizing the role that my tissue plays in my health, in my vitality, how good I feel, and also all the energetic stuff that I do as well. But having a very strong composition in my own body where there's more muscle, the fascia is lubricated, it's supple, my body is supple, my body is strong. I've gotten out of so much pain, and I've actually learned how to move my own bones in my body into a different, greater alignment, so that when I move, I'm strengthening my body into better alignment, and that is going to allow me to have really healthy joints, dynamic movement, be super active for decades. And I'm a mover. I love to move my body. I can't imagine. I mean, even exercising just like once a day, like 1 hour a day, is like not really enough for me. I like to do at least 2 things a day. I don't get to do that every day, but I love to hike. I love to do bowspring, weightlift, ice skate. So, I love to do as much of that as I can and be super active. And it's been such a gift for my mental health, and just having like really being super happy, feeling great in my body. And it does, for me, it has come down so much to the health of my tissue and the care for my fascia, my muscle, and the energetics of my body. And I already talked about how do we tend to our own tissue, all the ways that you can create changes in your body. And so I just wanted to share this. It's a different conversation for me to have on this podcast, but something that I'm really interested in, that's changed a lot for me and a lot of other people that I know. And I do offer a class called Fascia Lab, where you learn bowspring movement. You learn a lot about where the bones want to rest in their happy place and how to get them there more so. You learn self-care of your own fascia. You learn how to do self-body work on your own body. It's a really cool class, and I do it for a day. I'm going to be doing it in Slovenia. I'm going to be doing it in Prague, and I'm going to be doing it online, probably in like kind of toward the end of this year. I'll do the online one, but Slovenia and Prague, I'll be there in October or in November. So you can look on my website, heathernichols.com/events, and find out about that. So just a different one today, tending the tissue. I hope you got something out of this. If you're curious, go do some research, ask your body what it would like you to know about all of this, and go do some research and find out what's true for you, what would be a contribution for you. If your body's like, hey, let's play, check it out. Check out Bowspring Movement, bowspring.com. I've got Bowspring intro classes on my website. I've got some series that I've done on my website. I do actually have a Fascia Lab class that I did last year. It's 16 classes. It's a real deep dive into your entire body, healthy alignment, open posture, working with your fascia, Bowspring movement. Amazing stuff. I have not found something that changed the structure of my body as much as Bowspring movement has ever so far. It's been one of the most powerful ways for me to change my body dynamically, and it's so enlivening and so empowering. It's really beautiful stuff. So I hope this was a gift and a contribution, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Creation of Living podcast. If this conversation was inspiring to you, share the love. To work privately with me or for info on my upcoming classes and retreats, go to heathernichols.com. Have a beautiful day, and remember that the world thrives when you do.